And we're back with another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video. And today on Skype with us is Vet Dream and 4G Inverted Dive. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on, Mobile? How are you?
And we're going to do two things in this video today. We're going to talk about the first phase of the Rancor raid and Teebo teams that we're doing and how our guild handles the Tier 7 Rancor raids, because we can finish it in about 30 minutes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then later on in the video, we're going to talk about the huge update that has to do with armor that came out last week, which has been somewhat controversial, but now we have an official response from EA. And I'm pretty happy with it, but it was kind of concerning at first on how we didn't know what was going on. So first things first, let's talk to Vet Dream. Now, Vet Dream is one of the officers in the guild, and you do very well, and you solo the Tier 1 Rancor raid. How does our guild run the Rancor raid?
Okay, so our new rules for raids are that we pick a particular time to start, let everybody know so everybody's available, and we basically give everybody one free shot, do as much damage as you can, and then we wait 24 hours to allow everybody in the guild to get a shot and get a reward.
Okay, and so what's been happening now, because there's a lot of people in our guild that can solo the first round, like the video footage that we're watching on the screen. This is my footage where I use Teebo, Royal Guard, Rey, Jin, and Geonosian Soldier, but there's several of us that can solo the first round of the raid. How does that work out?
So it's been pretty fun and interesting, and it's rewarding for everybody that's put forth the effort to build a Phase 1 team. Our last raid, we had over 10 guys with 1 million damage in Phase 1, and I think 5 of us that were able to solo it.
Very fun. And so that makes it fun at the 24-hour mark, because then we can all battle out for third based on the extra damage, and whoever is doing the most damage in Phase 2, it usually has the most points. Now, Vetream, what team are you using right now, and how have you been doing with it?
Okay, so I'm using the Teebo lead, which probably everybody's going to use on that Phase 1. So Teebo lead, I use Qui-Gon Jinn, and I use Ewok Elder. He's able to get rid of that death mark, and he also, his basic gives Teebo quite a bit of turn meter. So Teebo gets a lot of extra turns with that. And then I use Captain Phasma for the speed down, and she can also grant that turn meter up if need be. And then my last slot is Geonosian Soldier for damage.
Okay, and how do you do once you get to Phase 2? Because you pretty much can finish the first round, and then you get through 1 door hit or 2 door hits when you get to Phase 2.
Okay, so yeah, the solo in Phase 1 is pretty automatic. Going into Phase 2, directly take that door down first thing. Just rack up as much damage as you can. The Teebo turn meter reduction doesn't land as well against Rancor, so I personally have only been able to get through 1 door stun. Usually around 2 million damage is about average for me.
Fantastic. Now, 4G Inverted Dive uses a very different team, and you usually finish number 1 in our Rancor raid. And what team do you use?
Well, it's pretty typical with a Teebo lead. I also use Qui-Gon Jinn, Geonosian Soldier, 5s, and I've been using Rex.
And how does that Rex work out for you? That seems to be the most interesting thing that you're doing there.
Well, Rex originally was a turn meter reduction and a cleanser, and so it would be a natural fit. What I've found through adapting the team with mods and just generally getting that squad up through their Omega abilities is that I don't even use Rex's cleanse. If they get the death mark on somebody, I have enough turn meter reduction clout to just get them out of it.
And then how do you do when you get to Phase 2? Because that seems to be where you really shine right there.
Yeah, I can get all the way through Phase 1 and then get 2 door stuns in on the Rancor. Now, typically I'll lose somebody between the first door stun and the second. That's where we're at right now, somewhere between 2.7 and 2.9 million in damage just off that 1 squad alone.
That's a lot of fun. That's amazing. So one of the things that we talked about is the team that I'm using is pretty much a squad arena team with Teebo. So it's Teebo, Royal Guard, Qui-Gon Jinn, Rey, and Geonosian Soldier. And all of those heroes are very playable in the squad arena except for Teebo. And the one hero that I would want to change out would be Royal Guard for somebody like Fives or Phasma. And I found the same thing that 4G was talking about is that the death mark is a non-issue. Basically, the turn meter and the death mark just expires, and I've been pretty happy with that. So what's interesting about Rancor?
Well, one thing that I find really interesting about where we're at is just how our guild has grown in the last month and in the last 2 weeks. As you'll remember, we just started doing tier 7 raids not long ago. And then now we kind of unlocked the secret, and now we're just dominating it. If we didn't have the 24-hour rule, we let everybody in the guild get at least a hit in based on where they're located around the planet, because we do have people in Asia and in the United Kingdom, etc. If we did not have that rule, we think that the raid would last less than 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, so just to be clear, everybody in our guild gets one attack in the first 24 hours, and then once the 24 mark has been had, it's a free-for-all. And what's happening is anybody that has a good Teebo team, we all go in simultaneously and post the damage at once. And how does that work? It doesn't double count it.
So if everybody starts at the same time, and when everybody goes in for phase 1 at the same time, the damage does not overlap. Say I was to get in 30% into phase 1 and started getting bad RNG, it wasn't going my way, and I wanted to back out and retreat. Now at that point, once I back out, if one of the other members has gone and finished their phase 1, say they did 60-70%, then when I will go to restart, then that's all it's going to be left. So you really got to kind of get into it the first try and hope for the best and go from there.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk in restarting. You want to just basically hope that you can finish it the first time you go through, because then you run the risk of not being able to play in the first round if someone has posted a completed round.
Correct.
And it's been a lot of fun, because what happens at the 24-hour mark, we're already in phase 4, usually halfway through phase 4, and we're all scrapping to get the last 200,000 damage or something to get our placements. It's made it very competitive and very fair for all levels of players. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about this for a minute. A lot of questions have been asked to me on what are the strategies for phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. I don't know if you guys agree, but there really isn't one. It's just mostly about DPS. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, obviously phase 2 and phase 3, there's little differences in the Rancor's abilities and whatnot, but the primary is the door stun. You have to absolutely land a door stun and get as much damage in as you can in those phases. Now, phase 4, all bets are off. Just throw what you have at it and go from there. If you have a potent turn meter reduction team, I would advise that. Something that can apply any form of buff, your Captain Phasmas, Fives, Jawa, anything to that nature that could put some form of a debuff on that Rancor is your strategy. The door plus that. And, I'm not really 100% sure, but it does seem like the turn meter reduction teams, once the door is down on the Rancor, it does seem like that has some kind of effect. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah, what I've noticed is that the turn meter reduction doesn't happen when he's stunned, and I just thought it was B that noticed it. It works when he's not stunned, but when he's stunned, I don't notice it happening often or ever.
I've never seen any turn meter reduction, but what I do try is to time that door stun to drop to where I can land speed down immediately if I haven't already got it. And if you get that speed down on the Rancor right off the bat or just before that door stun, your guys can go 2, sometimes 3 turns depending on their speed, get a lot of extra damage.
And there's pros and cons. Like my team, 3 of the characters have assist attacks: Geonosian Soldier, Fives, and Qui-Gon Jinn. And one of the strategies to that is, when are you going to use that? And I think some people just immediately go for it because they want to get all that damage in that they can, but sometimes it's better to hold off on the assist based on where the Rancor's turn meter is or what Teebo's doing. I'm very hesitant to even think about using an assist ability if Teebo is not stealth. And so I think that's a major part of my strategy, is just kind of taking it reasonably slow.
Okay, let's talk about round 4, and there's not much to talk about. What do you do 4G on Rancor round 4?
Round 4, I throw my arena team.
It's almost like you can autoplay it, right? There's not a lot of strategy to it. It's just a measure of damage output almost,
Yeah,
right?
just auto it, and like I use a Dooku lead, or like an old Ben lead. Just one evade. It means the difference in just that much of a little bit of damage. Like taunting somebody that can throw up a taunt, like Stormtrooper Han is pretty good.
But you're lucky to survive 2 rounds. He just kills everybody
Oh
very
yeah,
quickly.
yeah, because he'll do that slam that hits everybody. I typically with my arena team can get in maybe 3 rounds with that, maybe. With my backup teams, like droids or whatever clones are left, that's usually lasts, 1 to 2, maybe 2 rounds.
Yeah, so just to be clear, the round 4 of the Rancor is painful for everyone. That's just
there's no way around that.
There's no way around it. It's just a matter of having a lot of heroes and doing as much damage as you can. There's really not a lot of strategy to it. All right, let's talk about the game update that happened last week, and we didn't have any notice on it, but official notice went on the website, and I'm going to put it right here. It says, corrected an issue with how armor gained through the strength statistic was being severely compressed. All characters will see an increase in their armor, with the largest increase seen through characters that are naturally high in strength. And I first noticed this with Princess Leia. I noticed that her damage dropped off by almost half, and that had to do with everybody else having armor buff. What have you noticed so far, Adam?
Yeah, it's definitely hitting for crits. You're looking at your damage output, since that update, and you're thinking, wow, that seems pretty lackluster compared to what it was. For something like that to happen with no word, be very aggravating. You take the time to build your teams to what you got, and you try to look forward, what you think's going to happen, and you try to build your team to that, and then they throw a curveball in there, and it just kind of messes it all up. It's very frustrating.
What have you noticed so far, Trey?
Yeah, the same, really. Just kind of a play on what Adam said. As an example, people spend a lot of effort to farm Leia and get Leia up to her full potential, and then overnight, instead of hitting 3 times doing 9 or 10,000 damage, it went to 2 or 3,000 damage. People were going, hey, what's going on with this? I'm glad that they said something, and I think in the end it'll be a positive, but I agree with Adam. I think it was kind of on the sketch side that things happen without anybody knowing about it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to echo what Trey said. I was disappointed that we didn't know it was happening, and it seemed like there was some confusion over there, but I do think this was a good change. It's going to add some diversity to the game. Now, Adam, what heroes do you think are going to be really good going forward? What do you see this transition to being in the arena?
If they're going to be buffing armor, I could see some tankier teams. Some teams like B2 Battle Droid, very tanky. They can get rid of buffs. Sunfac, very tanky. I've seen him with 70, 80,000 protection and health. And then I've also seen Ayla Secura, who's does pretty well. She has a lot of health and protection, that basic and stun. So I'm looking at thinking maybe there's going to be more of a tankier arena coming around.
Yeah, that's my prediction, is that Secura is going to become very important going forward. What do you see happening, Trey?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot more straight-up tank teams in the arena. I think you're going to see like an Anakin lead with Royal Guard, Stormtrooper Han, Sunfac, and B2. I think that's, what's going to happen, and it's going to be insane because, as we've talked about just in our guild chat, it's not really just about who can you beat, it's who can your AI hold off. And so I think the road ahead, now that they did that, it's going to make it a lot easier for guys to hold off, to tanker down in their first, second, or third place slot in the arena.
Yeah, so these are big changes, and we will see how it plays out in the meta going forward, but I do suspect that B2, Super Battle Droid, Sunfac, and Secura, and maybe even Savage will be more important going forward. We'll just have to watch it closely. These things do happen slowly. People have got to catch on. Thank you guys so much for coming on our site. I really appreciate all the insights. Thanks, Trey and Adam.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and right here in the middle of the screen, there's a link to watch all of my Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes videos. Please like the video if you got something out of it. And as always, thanks for watching and keep on gaming.